December 18th, 1943, Belarus, near Vitebsk. A forest so quiet it feels like the world is holding its breath. Snow falls in slow, whispered flakes. The trees stand like mute sentries. Birch and pine, black ribs against a white sky. Breath fogs in the air, drifting upward like ghosts from the mouths of tired men. 14 Soviet partisans move in a thin file, spaced tight, each step deliberate. Crunch, crunch, crunch. No talking, no coughing, no metal clinking. Every breath stings, winter biting deep into lungs and fingers. They are hunters in enemy country, or so they think. The whisper of boots on snow, a faint rattle of grenades on belts, steam curling off wool caps, a Red Star armband half hidden beneath a torn greatcoat. Their weapons are mismatched. PPSH-41s, captured Kar 98Ks, one battered DP-28 wrapped in cloth to hide its silhouette. Real soldiers, but ghosts to their own army now, operating behind German lines, living off frost and daring. At the front, Lieutenant Alexei Chernov, 25, cheeks hollow from hunger, eyes sharp despite fatigue. Behind him, his second, Sergeant Mikhail Voronov, 32, broad shoulders, weather-creased face, eyes like winter steel, a hunter before the war, a man who moves through the trees like he was born in them. The mission is simple on paper: cut the German supply artery feeding Vitebsk. In reality, nothing is simple here. The air tastes like danger. The silence feels wrong. Then, it hits you. A sound too faint for a novice to notice, but unmistakable to men who felt death brush past. A metallic click hidden in the wind. A distant breath. A branch releasing snow, not by nature, but by weight shifting beside it. If you're new here and you want real, immersive World War II stories that put you in the cockpit, in the trenches, and behind enemy lines, subscribe now. Most people scroll past history, but you're here to experience it. So hit subscribe and like the video. The mission's only just begun.
You don't see men, but you feel eyes. The lieutenant stops, fist in the air. The line freezes mid-step. A raven croaks in the distance, harsh, mocking. Snow hangs in the air. Voronov slowly turns his head and sees it. A tripwire half buried under light powder. Mines, a line just ahead like hungry teeth waiting for boots. And deeper in the tree line, barely visible, the faintest flickers of cloth, rifle barrels tucked in snow, a shape like a helmet curve vanishing behind bark. MG-42 kill zone. Multiple positions, interlocking arcs, perfect, clinical, German. And they haven't fired. That's the worst part. The Germans are waiting, patient, disciplined, letting the platoon walk deeper, letting the trap close, letting the kill distance shrink so not one man survives when metal hell erupts. The realization spreads down the line like ice water. No one breathes. No birds chirp. Not even the forest dares move. One wrong twitch and 30 rounds a second will tear this clearing open like paper. Lieutenant Chernov's lips move soundlessly. Ambush. His eyes search desperately. They can't charge, miles ahead. They can't retreat. The rear path is covered, shapes in the snow behind them too. They're boxed, cut, butchered already, just not yet dead. Someone at the back whimpers. A young partisan clutches his PPSH so tight his knuckles blanch white under frostbitten skin. A man murmurs a prayer in Ukrainian under his breath. Another kisses a locket through his gloves. You can feel hearts pounding. Loud enough it feels like the Germans must hear it too. Everything slows. Breaths stretch. Air crystallizes. Time is a trapped animal trying to flee. Then, Voronov moves. No panic, no trembling. Just a long exhale, as if he'd been expecting this moment his whole life. His gaze sweeps the kill zone, calculating every angle like he's studying a deer trail, except the predators now are steel-eyed men behind machine guns. He leans toward the lieutenant. No fear, only resolve forged by too many funerals. A whisper, steady as a winter river. They're waiting to confirm targets. One man draws fire, the rest move. Chernov's face goes pale. He shakes his head violently, eyes wide, breath breaking. Voronov gives him a quiet, heavy half-smile, the kind only men who have already made peace with death can manage. Let me walk first. He pulls a strip of torn cloth from his pocket, white from a peasant's shirt, ties it around his rifle, a makeshift flag of surrender. Men stare, horror, disbelief, awe, mixing in their eyes. One mutters, voice cracking, "Seriosa, don't." Another clutches his sleeve like a drowning man reaching for a branch. Voronov gently pries the hand off. Someone has to. He steps forward. Snow crunches under his boot, louder than gunfire in this moment. He raises his rifle above his head, hands open, a prisoner to be, a fool, a dead man walking. Step, step, step. The forest watches. German helmets shift in the tree line, surprised, confused. Their fingers hover on triggers, not yet closing. They want prisoners. They want interrogation. 20 meters. Air trembles. 30 meters. His breath fogs like smoke from a burning soul. Then, a twitch of his hand, a pin pulled silently. He drops low, arm whipping forward, smoke grenade arcing, spitting sparks, hissing white fury. He dives sideways, coat flaring, and the world erupts. MG-42s scream, trees explode, snow vaporizes. His body turns into a blur of motion, zigzagging, rolling, firing bursts that are more defiance than aim. The trap snaps shut, but on its own teeth. Behind him, bodies rise, weapons ready. Lieutenant Chernov roars through the chaos. Go! Flank left! The forest goes from dead silence to roaring hellfire.
The first burst of German fire hits the trees like a saw blade of lightning, ripping bark, spitting splinters, shaking snow loose in violent white clouds. The forest, moments ago a frozen chapel, becomes a grinding throat of steel and thunder. Voronov is already moving, not running like a soldier, but like a hunted animal that knows the forest's heartbeat. Snow kicks up behind him, bullets scythe past so close they tug threads from his coat. A round snaps through his sleeve, burning flesh, but he does not slow. The smoke grenade blossoms, a dirty, choking gray cloud that swallows the clearing. For one precious heartbeat, the Germans lose their sight. Then, instinct takes over. The platoon explodes into motion. No hesitation, no orders needed beyond that one desperate scream. Chernov drives forward, voice raw. Left, left, move! Boots slam into frozen mud. Cold air tears lungs. Hands tighten around triggers slick with frost and sweat. They break into two assault pushes, one low, one wide. A PPSH-41 barks, a violent drum roll of 71-round fury. Grenades arc, smooth metal eggs clutched too long, teeth grinding as fuses hiss. One man sprints crouched, DP-28 disc magazine rattling like a dinner plate of death. The smoke thickens, swallowing shapes. The world becomes flashes, screams, and snow turning black and red. Voronov rolls behind a stump as bullets tear the ground centimeters from his skull. He slams a fresh magazine into his SMG, chest heaving, breath ripping like cloth. He doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. Because he hears them, his brothers charging behind him through smoke and gunfire. And he knows his madness bought them seconds. Seconds are life. A German machine gun nest opens again, blind sweeping fire, a wall of bullets. A partisan dives, too slow, and a burst catches him in the ribs, spinning him, blood spraying in a cruel arc across the snow. He doesn't scream. He gurgles, a wet, soft sound that disappears under the roar. His comrade stops, instincts clawing to pull him to safety. But Chernov shoves him forward, voice shaking and furious. There is no saving him. Move! Harsh truth, brutal war logic. Mercy means more dead. They push on. The squad veers left, finding the blind spot Voronov created, a wedge of smoke where the Germans can't see, can't adjust fast enough. A German voice shouts commands, clipped, panicked, cracking under sudden chaos. Flanke! Links! Fire! Fire! Too late. A partisan slams into the first camouflaged foxhole. Snow flying. A knife flashes. A muffled, ugly struggle. Then silence. Broken by a grunt and a curse in Russian, as the Soviet rises, wiping steel clean on his sleeve. Voronov sprints again, zigzagging so hard his boots slip, his shoulder slams a tree. Snow bursts around him as a belt-fed ripping sound chews a trench along the ground where he just was. Every heartbeat is a borrowed one. Another machine gunner tries to pivot. A German loader fumbles with ammo belt under frost-stiff gloves. A grenade rolls into their nest. Snow flying. A knife flashes. A muffled, ugly struggle. Then silence. Broken by a grunt and a curse in Russian as the Soviet rises, wiping steel clean on his sleeve. The smoke peels away in ragged swirls, revealing the nightmare beneath it. Bodies half buried in snow, shattered branches raining down like wooden shrapnel. A German helmet lies overturned, steam rising from the blood pooled inside. But the ambush isn't broken yet. A second MG-42 nest opens from the right flank, a brutal, ripping sound that feels like it saws the air itself. Bullets chew a path through snow and bark, cutting a fallen tree in half like it's paper. Two partisans dive behind a frozen stump. Splinters pepper their faces. One spits blood. The other can't stop shaking. Voronov sees the muzzle flash, sees the rigid posture of the gunner, textbook Wehrmacht discipline. He sees the loader feeding belts, face stone cold with duty. He has maybe 3 seconds before they finish adjusting fire and slice the platoon apart. He breathes once, a long, steady inhale that tastes like pine and gunpowder. Then he runs. Not in a straight line, but in that strange, zig-laden hunter's sprint that belongs to animals chased by rifle fire. Snow rips under his boots, his coat snaps behind him like a torn banner. The MG-42 barks, tracer lines hiss past, inches from flesh. One round grazes his scalp, heat and blood and white sparks in his vision. Another tears through his shoulder strap, ripping off his ammo pouch. He does not stop.
He drops low, slides on his side across packed snow like a man sledding straight into death, raising his PPSH as he skids. A roar of fire straight into the nest. The loader jerks, bullets punch holes through him like paper lanterns. The gunner tries to swing the barrel down, too slow, a grenade lands between his knees. His last word is a strangled 9. Then he becomes snow, smoke, and fragments. Silence? No. Just a pause in the screaming. And then new orders in harsh German bark. Reserve, nach vorn, halt die Linie. Fresh boots crashing through snow, reinforcements. Voronov groans, clutching his side. Blood slicks his gloves. His coat flap hangs by a single thread. His breath rasps like broken reeds. Chernov reaches him, panting, face smeared with black powder and snow. "You're hit." He spits red into the snow, wipes his mouth with the back of his glove. "I'm angry, not dying." He tries to smile. It comes out more like pain wearing a brave mask. Chernov clasps his shoulder. "Stay behind. That's an order." Voronov's laugh is bitter frost. "And do what? Knit?" Another MG burst crashes into a pine trunk beside them. Sap explodes outward like thick winter honey. Bark splinters pepper their faces again. Chernov wipes blood from his cheek, voice low, fierce. "We flank. They fold. One push." He signals with 2 fingers, sweeping gesture left. The partisans tighten formation. Close, tight, breathing harsh. Their boots dig into snow. Gloves tremble around triggers, faces carved by fear and fury. They move, low, fast, silent, like wolves closing on a wounded stag. A German rifleman steps out from behind a tree. Too late. A partisan drives a knife under his ribs, muffling his cry with a gloved hand. He crumples, eyes wide, snow darkening beneath him. Another German fires wildly, adrenaline making his hand shake. Bullets crack through branches overhead. Before he chambers the next round, a PPSH burst knocks him backward, head snapping, body folding into the drift like a puppet with cut strings. Closer now. The trench line comes into view. Shallow, snow-packed, logs stacked, helmets bobbing. One German lobs a stick grenade. It arcs in slow motion, tumbling end over end. Time stretches. The fuse hisses. Voronov doesn't think. He moves. He grabs it mid-snow bounce, turns, and hurls it back blind. A scream, a blast, then silence from that direction. He collapses against a pine, sucking air, vision tunneling. He hears footsteps, voices, Russian, alive. Chernov's voice again, raw with command and desperation. "Finish it!" The final surge breaks the trench. A German officer swings his Mauser like a club, gets tackled, face slammed into snow until red melts into white. A Soviet partisan fires point blank into a foxhole, muzzle flash lighting frost-coated roots. Steel helmets roll. Breath clouds surge and vanish one by one. The screaming fades. Then only panting, gasps, snow drifting down like ash after a burning village. Slowly, painfully, the forest exhales. They did it. Not by strength, not by strategy, but by madness, bravery, and one man who chose to walk first. Voronov slumps down a tree trunk, blood freezing on his coat, staring at the sky like he's waiting for judgment. Chernov kneels beside him, checks his pulse, grips his shoulder. "You insane bastard. You saved all of us." Voronov's laugh is thin, frayed. "I didn't save anyone. I just refused to die politely." Snow drifts on his hair. His breath shakes. But he's alive. Most of them are alive. And in this forest, that is a miracle carved from violence. But the night is far from over. The supply route still waits, and war never lets man rest long. Voronov forces himself to his feet again, jaw clenched. We move before they bring more. A man who walked into death now leads them back into the trees, limping, bleeding, but unbroken.
Night folds over the woods like a heavy wool blanket soaked in cold ink. The gunfire fades, swallowed by distance, replaced by the slow drip of melting ice from shattered branches. The forest resumes breathing, cautious at first, like a wounded animal testing if danger has truly passed. The men don't celebrate. They don't shout. They don't cheer. Victory here is quiet. A shivering inhale, a grunt of pain, a nod between souls who expected to die. Snowflakes drift down, soft as feathers, landing on the torn earth where bodies lie half-buried, rifles frozen in hands that will never warm again. Voronov wipes blood from his lip, his or someone else's, hard to tell. His ears still ring from explosions. Every breath tastes like cordite and winter bark. A young partisan, barely 20, approaches with shaking hands and wide, haunted eyes. Frost clings to his eyelashes like tiny white thorns. "Sergeant, why'd they wait? They could have killed us all at once." Voronov studies him, sees the question beneath the words. Why are we alive? Why am I still breathing when others aren't? He answers simply, voice rough as gravel dragged across steel. Hunters wait for the right moment. We didn't give them one. The boy nods, but doesn't understand. Not yet. Understanding comes with time, with graves, with nights where sleep refuses to come. Chernov moves along the line, checking wounds, binding arms, tying off tourniquets, and whispering reassurance with a voice cracking under weight he'll never speak aloud. His hands shake, but he forces them still. Leadership demands a steadiness the body resists. A partisan in a torn ushanka kneels beside a fallen comrade, closing his eyes gently. He murmurs in Belarusian, a prayer soft enough the wind almost steals it. One dead. One, where it should have been 14. The price of a miracle. Voronov tightens the ripped sleeve around his bleeding bicep. The pain pulses like a heartbeat under ruined wool. He glances at the fallen. Eyes linger, jaw clenched. He remembers the man's face from the night before, laughing by the fire, carving initials into a birch like a fool kid planning to return home someday. War is cruelest to those who still dare imagine peace. Chernov returns, voice low. We continue the mission. A murmur rises, exhaustion, disbelief, grief. But no one refuses, no one argues. You survive one death. You don't tempt fate by disobeying orders now.
Voronov speaks before the lieutenant can gather resolve. They'll send patrols, dogs if they have them. We hit the road fast, plant charges, and vanish. Snow will cover our tracks if we move now. Chernov studies him, sees the pain behind the stoic mask, the tremor in his breath, the slight stumble in his stance. He wants to order him back, force him to rest. But who can replace him? Who else sees the forest like a map of veins? He nods once. "Lead on, Mikhail." Voronov gives a humorless huff, the closest he can come to acceptance. The group forms up, tighter now, shaken but sharpened by fire. They move through the trees in silence, smoke still clinging to coats like a ghost that refuses to release them. Their footsteps crunch in unison, practiced, controlled, each sound deliberate. The forest presses close, tall trunks rising like cathedral pillars around them. The wind whistles through pine needles, mournful, ancient, indifferent. They approach the German supply track, a narrow, frozen road cutting through the woods. Tire marks, boot prints, the faint smell of gasoline and tobacco drifting in the cold. Voronov signals a halt, hand raised, palm flat. He kneels, touches snow, studies pressure marks, listens to the distant rumble of engines. His eyes sharpen. Convoy passed half an hour ago. Patrol might circle back. He reaches into his coat, withdraws explosives wrapped in cloth, wires coiled like sleeping serpents. His fingers work with hunter's precision, setting charges under the roadbed, placing them beneath roots and snowbanks. No fancy equipment, just cunning and desperation. A comrade whispers, "How are you still moving?" Voronov's answer is a grunt, followed by a whisper that chills more than the wind. "Pain is for later. Right now, we work." He plants the final charge, face pale, teeth clenched. Blood seeps through his coat again, but he doesn't look down. When he rises, he sways, only for Chernov's hand to steady him quietly, without ceremony. "You're bleeding out." Voronov breathes through his nose, jaw grinding. "I'll bleed later." They retreat into the tree line like phantoms, taking positions among twisted roots and snow-laden bushes. Fingers tighten on triggers, hearts slow, breaths steady. They wait. Snow settles on their shoulders. Silence thickens around them. Distant engines hum, faint, growing. The forest holds its breath again, just like before. Except now, the prey has become the hunter. And in the stillness, Voronov whispers, not a prayer, but a statement carved from truth and bone. No one dies alone today. The road trembles. Headlights break through the trees, and the trap they earned with blood prepares to spring. The convoy announces itself, first as a low vibration in the frozen earth, a distant growl that crawls through roots and snowpack and up the bones of the men lying in wait. Then the sound grows teeth. Engines strain, metal clinks, tracks and tires grind ice and gravel. Headlights stab through falling snow, long white beams slicing open the tree shadows. Voronov lies prone, cheek pressed to cold earth, breath controlled, heartbeat stubborn. His blood has frozen into stiff patches on his coat, but his grip on his weapon is steady. He feels each pulse in his side like a hammer striking a steel plate, but he refuses to let his eyes blur. Beside him, Chernov whispers, "On my command." The men around them shift slowly, fingers finding triggers, grenades checked by touch, not sight. No one speaks beyond breath and heartbeat.
And then the convoy appears, like steel animals moving cautiously through a ghost forest. First, a motorcycle scout with sidecar, headlight dimmed. Then 3 German Opel Blitz trucks, tarps pulled tight, silhouettes of crates and fuel barrels underneath. A final Kubelwagen trails behind, an officer inside, cigarette glowing faintly in the dark. A supply artery, fuel, ammunition, rations, lifeblood for a German division fighting just miles away. Each crate another day of war. And today, the artery bleeds. Voronov's hand rests near the detonation cord. His thumb traces the rough, frozen surface, a soldier's prayer made of powder and steel. Chernov inhales, long, steady, final. Snowflakes drift down, landing on the officer's windshield as his car rolls directly over the buried charge. Voronov clenches his jaw, tightens his grip. Now, the earth splits open, a roar like the sky cracking. Flames punch upward with the fury of trapped winter gods released. Snow erupts, dirt and metal fly in violent arcs. The lead truck's front axle lifts clean off the road. The entire vehicle flips, landing upside down with a sickening crunch, wheels spinning like broken clocks. The motorcycle slams sideways, bodies tumbling in firelit snow, helmets bouncing like kicked tin bowls. The Kubelwagen skids, hits a log and folds inward with a metallic scream. Chaos detonates. Men shout in German, confused, terrified, wounded. Feind! Hinterhalt! Deckung! Zu den Bäumen! Zurück! Zurück! But there is no safe direction. The night is made of teeth. Voronov is already moving, staggering to his feet, weapon raised, pain swallowed. His boots slip in churned earth, but he pushes forward, firing short, controlled bursts. Each shot an answer to fate's earlier question. Why him? Why survive?
Beside him, the partisans surge like wolves from thickets, snow erupting around them. PPSH drums rattle, grenades burst beneath truck frames, sending shrapnel and burning canvas flying. One partisan swings a Molotov, fire blooms, glass shatters, flames dance across tarp and flesh alike. A German soldier rolls on the ground, coat burning, screaming, until a single round ends the sound. The air fills with smoke and winter steam, breath clouds tangling with gunpowder fog. Chernov charges the rear truck, firing into silhouettes as they try to jump free. A German officer raises his pistol. Chernov tackles him into snow, wrenching it away, driving a knife beneath his ribcage. Their breath mixes, steam from mouths and blood rising together. Voronov advances towards the overturned Blitz truck, hears movement inside, cries muffled by metal and fuel fumes. He drags himself up, braces, and slams his last grenade through the gap. He jumps back, collapses against a tree. Boom. The trunk shudders. Bark rains down. He lowers his head, breath trembling. More gunfire. Bootsteps. Shouting. Then, slower now, gasps, whimpers. Silence bleeding into winter air. Finally, nothing but crackling fire and falling snow. The fight lasted seconds. The memory will last lifetimes. Chernov approaches, face streaked with soot, blood, and exhaustion. He kneels beside Voronov, who looks pale beneath frost and smoke. It's done. Voronov stares at the burning road, trucks turning to skeletons of glowing orange, ammunition popping inside like muffled fireworks. His voice is quiet, heavy, not triumphant. Never that. Cost us enough already. A younger partisan approaches, eyes bright with adrenaline, hands shaking uncontrollably. "Sergeant, you saved us again." Voronov doesn't look up. He wipes blood from his jaw, breath shuddering. "No. I just walked first." Snow collects on his shoulders again. A soft white burial shroud the winter keeps trying to give him too soon.
Chernov grips his forearm firmly, not as an officer, but as a brother in arms. We go home. We earned it. Voronov finally stands, swaying, breath clouding white. The men gather, bruised, burned, blood-marked. They move back into the forest like shadows retreating from firelight, each step heavy but alive. No songs, no flags, no medals waiting, only the forest and the long, cold path to another dawn. Voronov pauses at the tree line, watching the flames consume the German convoy, sparks flying into the night sky like souls escaping trenches. He mutters almost to himself, "I'm tired of burying boys," then turns and follows his men into the darkness, not as a hero, but as a man too stubborn to die and too loyal to stop walking.